In 1980, the Paragon Hotel became one of the most popular vacation spots for celebrities and rich people. Eventually a famous mobster started to conduct a shady business at the hotel and even invested in it. Afterward, the owner's wife was found dead and he went missing. This caused the hotel to close its doors. When the mobster died too, his fortune disappeared. A few months ago, Amanda desperately crawled on the floor of a dark corridor to try to get away. Suddenly she saw something in front of her and froze in horror. In the present, Diane starts a live stream for her channel The Creepers. She and her boyfriend Rick announce that today's trick will be to jump off a moving train. Their chat cuts to a short clip that shows Diane jumping through the door. A passenger watches in shock and her face is edited as a joke. This was all part of their intro, and now the duo shows the whole process as Cora and Vern show up with a big trash container. The four of them are wearing staff uniforms, so when they walk by security they aren't stopped. Once they're in the train, they open the container so JD can come out with their gear. At that moment a passenger enters their car and Rick tries to tell her that it's closed, but she ignores him. The team decides to ignore her too and uses tools to force the door open. Then they install a metal bar that will keep the door from closing again. After they take off their uniforms, they jump off the moving train, landing perfectly just like they practiced. Now the group is on the rails, so they have to run as fast as possible to avoid getting crushed. They rush to the wall and get out of the way just in time. Once the train is gone, they approach a big gate and try to open it to no avail. Cora jumps to start climbing the gate and wall, using her body cam to record the process. She opens a vent and crosses it to reach the other side, where she can open the gate for her friends. The group explores a corridor and admires the graffiti that decorates every inch of the walls. At the end of the corridor they find a graffiti by the famous artist Basquiat. After Rick reminds everyone to record but not to touch, they take pictures and videos of the place. However, JD starts breaking a piece of the Basquiat graffiti, ignoring his friends when they scold him. Rick jumps on him to try to stop him and a fight ensues. Once Vern pulls them apart, Rick kicks JD out of the team. JD says he'd rather be rich than a nobody and leaves with the graffiti piece. Minutes later the group hears the guards coming. They immediately start running down the tunnel and manage to escape without getting caught. The next day, Diane checks the uploaded video and sees it only got 82 views. The team is frustrated because they don't know what else to do to get views, so Rick reveals he has a surprise. He's acquired the blueprints of the Paragon Hotel because he's heard that the mobster's money is still hidden there. Many people have tried to enter the abandoned building to search for that money, but none of them ever returned. The legend says evil lives there and doesn't like visitors. The group is excited about the idea of finding the money, but Rick reminds them of their rule: they only document. Then Diane takes off her hat to reveal her new hair color. Rick is left in shock, which disappoints her. At that moment they get a notification and discover that JD has joined a new team. He shows off the stolen wall piece in a video and insults the creepers. His new friends are playing Russian roulette, so Rick calls them psychos. While the others aren't watching, Diane posts that they'll be going to the Paragon. The following night, Vern, Cora, and Rick are in a motel with their gear, but they haven't heard from Diane. At that moment someone knocks on the door and Rick opens it to find Frank, who works for the Vice news outlet. Cora explains that he contacted her and she invited him to come with them. Then Diane finally arrives, so Frank explains himself. He wants to watch the group crack the Paragon and publish the story. He knows about their plan from Diane's post, and the group gets angry at her for ruining the surprise. Rick thinks it's a bad idea, and Vern believes Frank is an undercover cop. However, Diane likes the idea because it may bring the views they need, so they're bringing Frank along. The group leaves the motel, but when they get to their van, they realize they forgot to bring an extra diesel. Frank offers to take them in his car, so everyone ends up squished in the back. After a long drive on the beach, they reach a gate and use a tool to cut the lock. Vern notices that a storm's coming, so Rick says they need to be out of the tunnels before the rain comes. They can't use doors or windows because they've been sealed. They enter the sewage tunnel and put on helmets. After walking for a while, they find the tunnel that will take them into the building, but it's quite small. They have no choice but to crawl through it while dealing with the awful smell. Suddenly they hear a noise and are horrified to see a bunch of rats. They immediately cover their faces and Frank gets on top of Cora to protect her as the rats walk over them. Thankfully the rodents quickly leave the tunnel without anybody getting hurt. Minutes later, they come out of the narrow tunnel and find a sparking power box. The gate they hope to use is blocked by a pile of objects, so Diane decides to look for a different entrance. Cora uses a tool to break the lock and opens the gate anyway, causing the objects to fall. Now there's room to go through, so Cora yells to tell Diane to come back. They don't wait for her, they just cross the gate and finally step into the hotel. The group starts recording and taking pictures, so Rick makes an intro for his video. When he says the hotel's name, some birds suddenly fly off and hit the chandelier, causing it to break and fall. Cora quickly moves to avoid getting crushed as the chandelier crashes to the floor. Meanwhile, Diane finds a different entrance that takes her to a very nice room, where she immediately starts streaming for her followers. She takes the stairs to the ballroom and fools around with the piano. When Rick tries to call her, she rejects it to avoid ruining the video. At that moment she hears a weird noise and assumes it's the rats, so she starts running. She ends up tripping on the stairs and falls, dropping her phone. As she catches her breath, a creepy hand appears behind her. Rick is worried about Diane's disappearance, so he tells his friends to search every room. After he rushes up the stairs, Cora explains to Frank that Rick wants a wife but Diane wants adventure. Rick works in a hardware store and provides the group with gear, so they let him think he's in charge. Then Cora notices Frank's ring and asks about his wife, so he shows her a picture of Amanda. The moment is interrupted by Rick, who tells them to join the search. In the meantime, Vern keeps taking pictures and notices claw marks on the wall. Suddenly he hears a noise and decides to walk away from that area, unaware of the running shadow nearby. When the group reunites, Vern shows them the picture of the claw marks. Rick says they must find Diane and get out of here, so Cora volunteers to look for a master key. Frank wants to go with her but Vern doesn't trust him, so he goes instead. In the lobby, Cora and Vern search the reception desk and find a newspaper clip that tells them about the owner's disappearance and his wife's death. The cops kept the details private, but rumors said that the wife's chest was open and her heart was gone. Meanwhile, Rick and Frank keep searching the corridors and rooms. Frank asks Rick how he met Diane, so he explains it was in an abandoned mental hospital. His story is interrupted when he accidentally steps on a bear trap. Frank immediately removes it, so when Vern and Cora come back, Vern jumps on Frank thinking he was the one to hurt Rick. Frank pushes him against the wall to calm him down. Then he cleans Rick's wound with water and wraps it with tape since they don't have a first aid kit. Cora wants to take Rick to the hospital, but he refuses to leave without Diane. Suddenly they hear Diane's phone, so they follow the noise to the next floor. They discover a huge tree with phones and cameras hanging from the branches. Rick recognizes Diane's phone, so they watch her last video, but when they reach the part where she falls, the phone runs out of battery. Then they hear a strange noise, and Vern reluctantly says they should call the cops. Cora agrees, but Rick and Frank think there's no time to wait for the police. The group keeps moving and Cora hears another noise, so she throws a punch when someone jumps on her. Frank pulls out a gun and points it at the attacker, who turns out to be JD. Suddenly JD's new team comes and hits Frank to bring him down. Max steals Frank's gun while Todd points his own weapon at Rick's group, making everyone get on their knees and forcing them to hand over their phones and gear. Rick accuses them of attacking Diane too, but Todd denies it as he insults her. When Todd asks where the money is, Cora and Rick insult them back. Todd gets closer with the gun and starts describing the awful things he'll do to them if they don't cooperate. Cora keeps insulting them, so Mac tries to hit her, but Vern pushes him back. Mac responds by pointing his gun at him. Then Todd makes Cora stand and puts the gun in her mouth, so Frank says he doesn't know how to use it. Todd drops Cora and points the gun at Frank instead, causing him to confess that he's looking for his wife. When he refuses to say more, Todd threatens Cora again. Frank finally reveals that he isn't a reporter, Amanda is. She went missing a few months ago with her photographer when they were working on a story about the hotel. The cops weren't any help, so Frank needed a way in. Seeing Diane's post gave him hope. Todd doesn't care about missing women and insults them before turning to Cora, who spits on his face. A frustrated Todd pulls out a handkerchief to clean his face and Rick recognizes it as Diane's, so he jumps on Todd to try to take it back. Todd simply pushes him off and claims he didn't know the handkerchief belonged to Diane before offering it to Rick. When Rick grabs it, Todd pushes him over the balcony, and Rick screams as he falls through a very deep hole in the floor. JD calls Todd out for taking things too far, but Todd just slaps him. Then he asks Frank for the location of the money, and when Frank refuses to answer, Todd strikes him too. Frank explains that the money's location was marked on the blueprints, and Rick had the only copy. Todd announces they'll go looking for Rick. When the group returns to the corridor, Cora sees a body on the floor. However, they can't reach it because there's a huge hole in the ground. Since some cables are hanging from the ceiling, Cora jumps to bounce off the wall and reach those cables, then swings to land on the lamps. After a moment of hesitation, she jumps again to grab the next cables and does a full spin to land on the other side of the hole. Cora rushes to the body thinking it's Rick, but it's actually an old skeleton with bugs. Todd announces they'll search somewhere else and shoots the cables to stop Cora from following them. As they walk down the corridor, they hear a crying woman, so they follow the sound into a room. Mac opens a strange wardrobe but only finds clothes. When he turns around, a creepy hand comes out to touch him, so he immediately backs off. A woman then comes out asking for help and Frank recognizes her as Amanda's photographer Beth. Then they hear another weird noise and Beth says it's coming, so everyone is going to die. Rick and Mac put on night vision goggles, turn off the flashlights, and close the curtains before looking around the room, but they don't see anything strange. Suddenly they hear someone getting hit and gagging. When they turn around, they discover a dead JD impaled on the wall with a metal bar in his mouth. In the darkness, something monstrous moves around them. Mac and Todd open fire, but they don't land a single shot and Todd runs out of ammo. Eventually the monster gives up and crawls on the wall to escape through a hole in the ceiling. The group turns on their flashlights again and discover that a stray bullet has killed Beth. Meanwhile, Diane wakes up on a bed in the penthouse's master bedroom. There are candles everywhere and a satanic pentagram on the floor. She runs to the door but can't get it open. At the same time, Cora hears a door being pushed and follows the noise into a very plain room, where the door closes behind her. She's startled by something touching her ankle, only to find Rick hiding under the bed. More strange noises echo in the room, so Cora runs to hide in the closet and Rick stays under the bed. The monster comes in and Cora notices that it looks like a very pale human. It opens the closet and looks inside, but Cora is hanging on the ceiling. When it finally looks up, Rick hits it from behind with a piece of wood. The monster grabs Rick by the neck and Cora takes the chance to run away as Rick is thrown across the room. Soon Cora reaches the elevator and presses all the buttons, but it won't work. The monster reaches through the bars to grab her arm, so Cora struggles to free herself and steps out of reach. Then she pushes a lever to activate the power and now the elevator finally moves. On the next floor, Cora runs through a corridor and tries some doors until she finds an open one. In this room she discovers the security cameras, which show Amanda on a chair and Diane in the master bedroom. Cora then notices a pile of VHS tapes and notices one with weird symbols on its label. She plays it on a TV and several minutes of static are followed by a human-shaped shadow. A creepy voice says that a powerful secret was shared with him to become more than a foolish man. This changes to a recording of the murder of the owner's wife and the murderer ripping her heart out. At the same time, Diane looks around until she discovers a book called His Dark Majesty. A dedication from the mobster to the owner's wife says that this book can give her great power but also great pain. The book's text talks about a ritual to channel the forbidden power of shadow alchemy, using words like satanic and ungodly. Illustrations show a terrifying monster eating people and a human transforming into a creature. Another drawing shows the creature eating a person's heart. Both the book and the recording explain that by eating a mortal's sacred heart, the chosen one will be gifted with supernatural strength. Meanwhile, Todd and Mac run around until they find an open room with bullet holes in the wall. To their surprise, the money is right there falling from a wardrobe. Todd rushes to pick it up while Mac looks around. He's horrified to find a skeleton on the floor with its chest open and rats feeding on it. Mac decides the money isn't worth this and runs away. When Mac reaches the stairs, he hears the monster and opens fire, but the creature quickly escapes. Mac keeps running and tries to cross the door, only to suddenly fall. It turns out there's a wire tied across the door and it slashed his neck, so he's now slowly bleeding to death. Back in the room, Todd tries to leave with the money but the monster blocks him. It grabs him by the neck and stabs his chest with its long nails to rip out his heart. After Todd drops dead, the monster eats the heart. While Cora sees the bodies on all the screens, Diane keeps reading. The book says that the final transformation from man to beast occurs when the Dark Lord is offered the joining of two souls that want to become one. Then the man-beast will enjoy eternal life. Diane then sees a wedding dress on a chair and realizes the monster wants to use her for the final ritual. Suddenly the monster appears behind her and caresses her face. On the stairs, Frank and Vern hear a voice. They rush down and almost walk into the wire, but they stop just in time. Mac's body is on the floor with a hole in his chest, and the voice is coming from his bag with the gear. Vern pulls out a walkie-talkie and finally talks to Cora, who tells them to run because she sees that the monster is coming. Frank and Vern run as fast as possible and make it to the kitchen. After they lock the door and get a knife, Cora tells them they can escape using the dumbwaiter. They press the button but it isn't working, so they'll have to move it manually. Vern gets in first and starts pulling the rope so the dumbwaiter moves up. After lots of effort he reaches the top floor and Cora helps him get out. Now Frank has to pull the ropes to bring the dumbwaiter back. As the monster starts pounding on the door, Frank gets in the dumbwaiter and pulls the ropes again to go up. At that moment the monster finally bursts in, so Frank tries to move faster. When he looks down through the hole in the dumbwaiter, he discovers that the monster is climbing the tunnel. As the creature puts its hands inside the dumbwaiter, Frank tells Vern to cut the ropes and he jumps out. The dumbwaiter quickly goes down, dragging the monster with it. Afterward Vern uses the walkie-talkie to call Frank, who confirms he's fine because he's jumped to another floor. They agree to meet in the penthouse, but first Frank goes back to the tree and gets Amanda's phone, which has their initials on the back because it was a gift from him. Cora tells him the right room number and Frank kicks a door open to find Amanda on a chair with a hole in her chest. He gives her a kiss and covers her with his jacket before leaving. Then Frank meets with Vern and Cora, who tell him where Diane is. They're also shocked to see that the monster is still alive, so Frank volunteers to rescue Diane. In the master bedroom, Diane has put on the dress and comes closer to the monster pretending to be friendly. Once it's distracted, she hits it with the book and runs away, so the monster chases her. In the corridor, Frank is trying to find the right door to no avail. When he hears Diane screaming, he follows the noise and finds the monster dragging Diane by the hair. Frank runs toward them and tackles the monster, sending them both over the balcony. The creature ends up impaled on a tree branch while Frank crashes on the floor. This kills them both. Then Diane gets the walkie-talkie and asks Cora about Rick, so she tells her what happened and gives her the room number. Diane immediately runs to that room and finds Rick on the floor. She cries in grief thinking he's dead, but thankfully he wakes up and the four friends get to reunite. Sometime later the creepers are all over the news for finding the money, and they inspire people to get into urban exploration. Their video about the hotel gets 100 million views and even famous people leave comments. For their next trip, Cora dyes her hair blonde. Rick opens a bag and reveals he's stolen a small amount of the money, saying a little bit won't hurt the code. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.